Welcome to the Bonded Podcast Foundation Series, hosted by Dr. Patty and Lizzie Shutt,
where we explore attachment healing and the bonds that shape us as children, as adults, and as parents.
We talk about the joy, the complexity, and the challenges that come with forming deep human connection.
From before conception through early childhood and far beyond.
Whether you're expecting, adopting, navigating loss, or supporting someone you love,
or simply wanting to better understand yourself and the ways your early experiences still impact you today,
these conversations are for you.
The podcast isn't just about raising secure children.
It's about healing ourselves, breaking generational cycles, and creating relationships rooted in safety, trust, and authenticity.
You'll hear from experts and parents alike on topics like fertility and perinatal loss,
adoption, returning to work,
temperaments, identity shifts,
and the emotional realities that often go unspoken.
So settle in,
take a breath,
and know that wherever you are on this journey, you're not alone.
You are not alone. Today on the Bonded Podcast, I welcome Erin Vinski, a licensed therapist and a colleague of mine whose work centers on postpartum mental health, family systems, and the profound identity shifts that come with becoming a parent. She brings both clinical expertise and lived experience to her work and to this episode. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome, Erin, to the Bonded Podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes. Erin is a therapist where I work as well. So she's given me some supervision and been a great coworker and friend. So I've been excited to have her on because she has a specialty in postpartum mental health, and it really fits perfectly in this foundation series that we're doing right now. So, Erin, curious what really drew you, whether it is to mental health or postpartum mental health. What was kind of what inspires you to work with this population?
Yeah, having had my own experience, like so many other women, I feel like I definitely saw moms out and about, but I didn't really see them until I was in it myself, despite having had so many cousins and friends who had kids. It just something really fundamentally changes, and I think everyone I know that have had children really just want to help other women going through the experience. It's just amazing sense of community, and so it made me feel really empowered as a therapist that I have these special tools that I can really help support people.
Okay, so really when you were in it for yourself, that's when it really sparked to, okay, I want to work more with other women and help them through this stage of life.
Yeah. It really clicked. Prior to that, I got into social work, working in foster care and adoption. So like children, birth, family, always been a big part of the role that I do here and what I want to support people with. This was just an added caveat of and now I really understand this and want to be able to provide support there too on this journey.
And allowing yourself to kind of shift and evolve as you do, your career can as well. Well, I always learn so much when I talk to you about maternal mental health, and you not only work with women, but all people, even like kids, adults, so kind of different ranges of families as well. So that really allows you to have more of a holistic look too. So yeah, I'm excited to get in, but let's start with the actual moms who are in postpartum. What do you notice are kind of like the things that they're coming in with, or challenges that they often face?
The way that I would kind of summarize it is that it's the biggest shift in sense of self that you'll ever have in your life. At least as far, I've only lived this far, so maybe there's another one coming that I'm not aware of that the women haven't let me in on yet. But it's something that you can't really. I remember thinking I have so many older cousins that have all these kids. My friends who had children said the same thing. All these other women, I feel like they didn't fully prepare me for this. And the tricky thing about it is that because it's so different per person, one person's going to love pregnancy, another person's not, or have morning sickness. One person's going to have severe postpartum depression or anxiety, which are separate and we can talk about, or can be comorbid. Another person might feel like they've didn't think they'd be good at it and now they've really found themselves. So it's really hard for women to support women in the sense that here's the playbook, there's no surprises. And we don't love, our nervous systems don't love that when we don't know what to anticipate and are kind of like shaken by the experience. So I think it's just this massive transition you can't prepare for. There's no rule book, playbook, I think would be the term.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I love that you're kind of normalizing that there's so many different experiences that it can, it can be this like incredible experience, beautiful, and also really questioning everything of like, who am I? And redeveloping this sense of self.
And I think that plays a big part in what changes us so fundamentally. Like I've just had a session today where I was expressing to someone talking about potentially starting this journey that it's hard to explain, but you'll never be able to find that version of yourself again once you've had a kid. It's a beautiful thing, but it can be very unsettling. And here I am 4 years later and I still haven't found her. I don't think it's going to happen because I've heard this from so many other women, and it's the most empowering thing you can experience in many ways. But I think that everyone likes control. I talk to clients about this all the time. The lack of control is like the biggest source of anxiety, not knowing what's coming next. Our nervous system's like patterns and predictability. Pregnancy, postpartum, motherhood strips all of that away in a way that I just think really, really fundamentally changes us.
Yeah. And even like the biological changes too, like
Yeah.
that there is that like identity piece and biologically there's shifts that are happening too, right?
Something that I hear a lot, because again, who has the highest rate of like body dysmorphia and, maybe struggles with eating disorders and things like this is women. Even if it's not diagnosable, just in general, we tend to struggle with it. And it's for many people the first time in their life that you truly have to relinquish control. I remember saying this out loud to my partner, like, this is the first time I'm going to have to relinquish control of what my body looks like and have acceptance. I feel really fortunate that for me, it felt really beautiful every step of the way, but I've had people who that was not their experience, and it felt really uncomfortable to see their body expand and not look and be able to do the things athletically that they're used to doing. So just repeatedly, it really, really challenges you. And postpartum, the same. You got that 6 weeks. I was counting down the minutes till I could work out, not because I cared about my body, just I love it. That's my source of dopamine. I exercised as much as I could during my pregnancy, but postpartum, you just can't. So that's a challenge. I think it affects a lot of people's mental health, even people who just, I like to go for a daily walk. That can be limiting.
Yeah, when movement is really a source of caring for yourself and helps with your mental health, and you don't get to do it in the same way, or even like I think about Run Club, you might not be able to do Run Club and get that like extra community boost too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so what do you guide people to do, or what would you share with listeners, if they're not able to do that movement, or some things are changing where they used to use these as coping skills and they
Yeah.
don't get to anymore?
I mean, it's a tough one because it's not as though there's any adjustments or anything. It's really just a place for, I like to do the work with people, honestly, of noticing whether it's this or whether it's a sports related injury, whatever it is, when it comes to exercise, the discomfort that comes up. Are we striving towards health, or are we striving out of fear of what happens the minute that I stop hitting that goal every day? Where's my identity? What's people start having really maybe not fully rational ideas about what's going to happen to their body within 2 days of not doing this workout that they do. So it's a really cool teachable moment. It's unfortunate that it's happening at a time where you're experiencing a lot of other teachable moments at the same time. Maybe not the most ideal life lesson. But if you ideally have supportive partner and community around you that allow you to rest and allow you to refocus your attention from what can't be to what is right now. And I also always, kind of drive home, this feels like everything right now. It is not permanent. The inability to work out, but also how much this baby needs right now. Like these moments go, especially the newborn phase, it goes so fast. So that's a tough conversation with new moms because you'd not helpful to say, but this isn't, just enjoy it while it lasts. It goes so quick. And they're like, please, how quickly can it go sometimes? So it's a balance.
And a big thing that we speak to here is teaching mindfulness. And, you know, that is about being present to whatever is here, even if that is those difficult emotions, being able to be here and then bringing self-compassion as well to those difficult
Yeah.
moments.
I
Yeah.
think DBT skills and grounding and mindfulness, if we could start offering that as a class to new and like pregnant moms, because and a lot of like doulas do teach that or like supportively offer those skills for birth if you're doing like an unmedicated birth, because it's so beneficial and like noticing the pain but not suffering through it the same way. But I think postpartum, the same thing. There's so much overstimulation of suddenly having something else outside of yourself need you constantly while you're also dealing with your own, so many things, potentially like grief of how you thought birth was going to go and it didn't, or how you felt like this was going to be and it's not. You feel like you're showing up imperfectly when you're doing everything you can, sleeplessness, new hunger, all of these things. Being able to ground yourself and focus on this moment, moment to moment would be so beneficial.
All right, we're manifesting that. And so yeah, we're kind of speaking to like those during pregnancy and right after pregnancy kind of moments with movement, and like physical changes. How about any like biochemical changes and that impact on mental health?
Yeah. I always love sharing with clients something that I didn't learn until I was going through it and had a therapist share it with me, that your neurochemistry changes obviously in the female brain whenever you're pregnant, postpartum, but I didn't realize that it lasted for 3 years. During that, I guess what's considered to be just like the most vulnerable years of a child's life, where somebody in their environment has to be wired to be so hypervigilant for their safety because they got nothing. Like they have nothing. My kid's still jumping off of anything he can find to slam his body onto the ground. And of course, as an infant, their only ability to get nurturing is to cry. So they need someone who's everything within them, body, brain, nervous system, responds to that cry in a very strong way. But that can once again feel really uncomfortable. It's hard for moms to settle. It's hard to be, new moms in loud environments. Everything can feel like a threat to the baby, and that can be really, which we can get into down the line, but how that affects partnership, because the other partner is not experiencing that the same. So many times I have couples on my couch, and dad, supportive partner, is just like, I think she's doing great. The baby seems healthy. I don't know why we're panicking so much. And mom's brain is just attuned to be in this hypervigilant state. And so again, a good place for some regulating skills, the same way we do with other forms of anxiety, that this is a good thing. It's in your brain and your body for a reason, to keep you or a loved one safe. But to this extent, it's not serving you. How can we regulate and let your body know that it is safe?
Yeah, so important to really validate like the evolutionary benefit of this mom brain and recognize there is an extent to which we can work on this to help you feel more regulated, because then I would imagine that anxiety is coming off, and impacting your relationship and your child's like attachment and development as well.
Yeah. The two parents are having completely different experiences. And for me personally, like I love helping moms with it because it's truly such a bummer to see the person who carried and birthed the baby not getting to experience some of the joy that, dad or supportive partner is, because they're not in this, hypervigilant state. They're not, on the verge of anxiety at every moment. So of course, if we talk about, at its worst, looking like postpartum depression or anxiety, that comes with a lot of like intrusive thoughts that can be really scary too. And I think I've definitely worked with moms who feel scared to say them out loud because it's like, why would my brain be sending me this thought? And it's just so important to say out loud and have someone normalize it for you, normalize the experience. This isn't something that you want. It's not something that's going to come to fruition because you thought about it 5 times. Very similar to OCD-like tendencies. Just normalizing and affirming and recognizing that it's something that's going to pass. And of course, if need be, like getting supportive help, whether that's, medication, more intensive therapy, whatever that might be, whatever supports.
Yeah, and an invitation if there are any intrusive thoughts that you think would be helpful to share and normalize right now to any listeners that are be like, oh, I've
Yeah.
thought that too, and I thought I was the only one.
Yeah. They're hard to talk about because it's scary and it's about your kid. I'll offer my own. I think it's maybe not as scary as some others, but I was breastfeeding for a year, and so you have to drink a lot of water. And a lot of times you're drinking the water while you're holding them, and these water bottles are big and they're metal. And every time I drink, I remember it's almost like a flash, like a visual, that it was going to hit his head and damage his head or his skull. And I remember telling a friend, I was just like sitting on the floor, I was like, is that normal? It's really weird. And she expressed some of her own. And yeah, I mean, I've had friends who put their kid on the same side of the car as them in their car seat because, like, if something happens, I want us to go together. I don't want them to be on that side and I'm on this side. Just, really serious fears that you never thought you would have until you're in that position and in that mindset.
Yeah, because personally, I have not experienced that. So I appreciate you sharing to give me some context and understanding. And that really
You
speaks
know
to,
what? Just because you asked, I do want to share another one that's maybe a bit more typical that I think
Mhm.
should just definitely be normalized. A lot of us just don't sleep for I didn't sleep for the first week of my kid's life because swaddled him, and I woke up in the middle of the night and he'd gotten his little hands out of the swaddle, and I was like, cool, we've got 15. We're going to try them all. So second, third, fourth, on like the very last swaddle, I stood up and I told my partner, I was like, well, we're taking turns sleeping because I simply cannot sleep while he can have his hands out and roll over. And we did for a week. And thankfully, everyone in our lives who had children were kind enough to let us do that and be sleepless until we got to a point of going, this is not sustainable and silly, and we're going to be okay. And did exactly what we should always do with anxiety, where we did the thing that felt like the threat, and I slept through the night some way or another, and he was fine. And we did that over and over again. And eventually the fear dissipated. But I think a lot of moms, it doesn't hit you till you're home from the hospital and nobody's there, and you're like, I'm fully responsible for this life. So good to talk about, so good to normalize between you and your partner, for partners to have the support to, like, she just needs a lot of affirmation during those first early days and just this whole season, really. Saying, well, that's silly. What are the chances of that? None of that's going to land. It's just not. Affirmation is good. So.
yeah. So really affirming like safety, and what would you kind of want to say to a mom or a partner that's going through this?
I think that, first of all, if possible, I think for like a male partner, calling either if they're just really uncertain, like, hey, I've affirmed the feeling, I've said, why don't we try this? I'm willing to do X. Like, what do you need from me? Is always a great question. You might not have the answers. If you're feeling uncertain and she doesn't seem like she's in a good space mentally, emotionally, call mom, call aunt, call friend who's had a baby. Another woman's perspective is just really beneficial here. Because like anything else, you just, some things you can't know unless you've been through it, you know?
We're taking a quick pause from the podcast to introduce our Mindful Self-Compassion class that we'll be offering this February. You'll learn practices and skills that help you respond to stress, shame, and overwhelm with kindness instead of criticism. It's not about fixing yourself. It's about learning how to be on your own side, especially when things are hard. This course is offered in a hybrid format, so you can join us online or in person, and you'll have guided practices to support you. If you're longing for more ease, more resilience, and more compassion with yourself, aka less of that self-critical mental talk, we'd love to have you join us. Check this out for yourself or send it to a friend. All the details about the upcoming class are linked in the show notes. Back to the episode.
You really speak to this other, broader sense of community and how that is a piece of raising a child too, that it's not just between you and your partner to figure this out. But I hear you again and again kind of speaking to, and why you even got into maternal mental health is because you want to make sure that women are supported through this season of life.
The more I get into it and supporting other moms and going through it myself and my friends, the more it becomes clear to me, just like I've read and researched, that it's not meant to be done in isolation. We've just kind of gotten really far from that. But I do think I see more and more that like moms and families are returning to this idea of like the necessity for community, especially in the early days of parenting. Because there's scary things that come up, and it can be so quick to like, we don't want to inconvenience someone by calling them in the middle of the night, by whatever. And it's, when you've been through it, it's just simply not that way. My friends can call me at 3 a.m, you know? And it's just those little things. I think I mentioned to you, we would be in the rocking chairs texting each other, and I'd be like, man, he's just not sleeping. And I'd get, you know, a little Starbucks gift card pop up on my phone. And we would just kind of take care of each other that way. It goes well beyond just, you know, everybody brings food in that first week or two. But then I hear from a lot of women, they feel kind of abandoned, and like anything else in life, there's this idea of like, here's the time period that you get to feel XYZ, and then everyone expects you to move on, and it's coming away from that narrative and into like, this journey looks different for everybody. Some people need support for most of us need support for much longer, and just kind of building that into your life and into your friend groups and family.
So important. And for community, because listeners might not be the moms themselves, but really partners or family members or friends that are listening. What are even some signs that they should look out for? You know, if like you mentioned, postpartum depression, anxiety. What are some things that they should keep an eye out for if they start to notice something's changed?
I think isolation with the baby is a big one. I think that hypervigilance at its highest is, I'm the only one that can keep this baby safe, you know, and I've seen that look like a lot of medical hypervigilance, you know, no one can come around, you know, well past those early initial days. And this is I also very much so honor like person by person choice. You are the best protector of your baby, so I'm certainly not shaming anybody for feeling like that needs to be an extended period of time. But just in making these choices, if it's extending to the point that mom's not able to get support because she's isolating from people to keep the baby safe, or just for her own limitations, and that's all she feels she can handle, then finding a way, maybe especially by that like closest partner, to have a conversation about getting some support. And it's such a tough one to approach, which is why I really encourage having that conversation before we're postpartum. And I'll share my own little anecdotal thing that being a therapist, I know so much, and I've seen so much postpartum depression and anxiety and just struggles in general through this transition, that I knew had my own ups and downs in my mental health history, and was like, I just want to be prepared. So I wrote out the things that I know I tend to do, even if I'm just going through a rough patch, of isolating, of maybe shutting down, of being a little short with my answers, or you know, needing significantly more sleep. Wrote it all down, found a therapist who I felt I could trust, wrote down their contact information, and gave it to my partner when I was probably 3 months pregnant, because I was just like, I don't know where this could go. And I think, especially being a licensed therapist, that I would be one to go, I think I need some help here. But we just don't know. There's huge hormone shifts and a lot happening. And there's a lot of shame in motherhood, which is a whole another conversation of feeling like you just need to slip right into it perfectly and feel like you're doing everything right, and unfair expectations set on moms, that makes it hard to reach out for help. So having that, whether it's mom, again, sibling, best friend, partner, having that information so that they can know what to look for. Good idea maybe to put on there, these are things that I'm going to maybe receive a little bit better than go get some help, like ways that you could approach me kindly. Or for me, I was like, I just want you to call them and let me know I have a session. So while you're in a good headspace, making a plan is never a bad idea.
I love that idea, an invitation to any
to any
couples planning to
couples
conceive
planning to
or
conceive
already
or
getting
already
pregnant,
getting pregnant,
finding that support ahead
finding
of
that
time,
support
just
ahead of
as,
time, just
we
as,
find like
we
the
find
baby's
like the baby's
pediatrician, or,
pediatrician,
we
or,
prep for the
we
baby's
prep for
health.
the baby's
Why
health.
not prep
Why
for
not
the
prep
mom's
for
health
the
as
mom's health
well?
as
And
well?
even telling
And
your partner,
even
like,
telling
hey,
your
this is
partner,
how to
like, hey,
approach
this is
me,
how
and
to
like,
approach me,
tell me
and like,
that's a
tell me
great
that's a great
Yeah.
addition.
addition.
Yeah.
And just such an important part of this conversation. I do think, I say there's so much support from other women and intergenerationally, which is beautiful, but something that I do sometimes see is a lot of focus on the baby. When mom is already hyper vigilant about baby's wellness and care, people will come over and bring food, and I want to hold the baby, and then I'm going to ask you a bunch about how you're doing with the baby, and some things that I think can be helpful to keep in mind. Whatever your dynamic is with the new mom, is having that conversation, asking lightly how she's doing. Well, how has this been? How is it motherhood feeling for you? What have been challenges? And then, this isn't even therapeutic, just disclaimer, before you offer to hold the baby, offer to do some dishes if possible, or pick up some things that are on the ground, or what do you want? Because a lot of times people say, I'm so overwhelmed, there's all this going on, I have visitor after visitor coming to check on me, and they all just want to hold the baby, and the baby's crying because the baby really just wants me right now. Meanwhile, there's all this stuff that I can't do, and now I feel like I need to get up and do it even though I'm exhausted because they're sitting holding the baby. So everybody wants to hold the baby. It's a beautiful thing, but best gift you can give a mom beyond just like bringing food is, hey, I'm going to chat with you and ask you how you're doing while I'm doing this quick task for you. Then I'll hold the baby.
Yeah, to have that relational connection and really recognizing the mom too as part of, it's not all about the baby, but you want to be there to support the mom too, and even the household as well.
Yeah,
Her
just
environment.
shifting away from this, honoring the role that the mom has played in bringing this baby that everybody's really excited about into the world, and kind of a shift away from what I think happened way more in the past. We're kind of coming away from it as people feel more empowered to be like, hey, I think a couple days after birth, I want to wait before we have visitors. And having the people in your life honor and respect that it can feel very like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and now I'm getting ready, putting on nice clothes, making sure the baby's all changed and whatever, to present to 50 people that come by to check on us. And it's like, like the Lion King. You're just like, I'm exhausted. I've got nothing, to create a space where they feel like they can stay in their pajamas. I had friends ask, do you want me to leave the food on the front porch? We just want to support you. We don't need to come in and see the baby until you're ready. Like, that kind of mentality is so helpful. Everybody's gonna get a chance. Everybody's gonna get a chance. Rushing it can feel really stressful.
Yeah. Really respecting, whether that boundary was communicated, or even asking, like, about that person's like capability or capacity right now, knowing that, as a couple, as a mom, they're going through a lot right now, and let me ask first.
Yeah, and I think you said it very well there, like whether it's communicated or not, because my friends and I really hyped each other up on this, and we made sure in the friend group and the family, like, we communicated boundaries for each other, but not all of us have that. And I don't think a lot of women still feel empowered or see this as their season. The minute the baby's there, it can very much so, depending on who's around you and how they respond, feel like you now are presenting it at every family event and whatever, and then no one's really, you feel very lost sometimes and forgotten in that, in the aftermath.
Sending love to all the moms out there. You are not forgotten. Yeah. And back to, because I know you work a lot with couples as well. Anything you'd want to share to couples that might be listening, that, because that was a great tip on thinking about the mental health ahead of time. But couples who are thinking about family, or thinking about getting pregnant, do you work with couples that are in those pre stages?
Yeah, yeah, I do. With thinking about, trying for kiddos and starting a family, so much of what I support couples in navigating is just how do we do this? It's so expensive, and trying to figure out how to navigate a system where childcare cost usually is somebody's salary. So somebody has to stay home, and that's a big transition for both people, and I'll kind of broaden that into the whole journey that they're about to go on is you've really got to lock in as teammates. It's we're either on the same team or we're on opposite teams because both people are going to be compromising things every step of the way, and really locking in on improving communication. Because when it's 2 a.m. you haven't slept and somebody's hungry and somebody's breastfeeding, and you really have to have that peace and patience for each other. But yes, having I just had a conversation with a couple today. The balance between having a plan within a system that's not really supporting maybe family planning the way that we would hope, but also like build that community. That's what's really at the end of the day gonna save us, is having community, having support, and being in support of each other and being patient with each other through the process. Every step of it, you're doing something you've never done before, So I think partners, if I can add on to that, oftentimes feel, at best, what I see is when the partner comes in and they're like, I feel completely lost in this, and I don't feel like it's a very silenced position. They don't feel like they get to express that because look what she's going through. My role is just support. That's it. And that can be very, I'm giving, and no one's checking on him or them at all. That's like third party, no one's even getting to that. And that can feel really isolating and lonely as well. And then I'll just say something that I see super, super often is, I'm not going to get into the science of it or anything. It's just what I see in therapy. Oftentimes dads don't necessarily connect in parenthood as quickly as moms, I would assume, because, mom's carrying the baby. It feels very real to you from the minute that you feel a baby moving inside your belly. And for dads, it can take longer. And some, not all, find that connection a bit easier once, kiddo is moving around and saying words. And so, like anything else in therapy, that can be, I've worked with moms who are like, I'm not excited about this pregnancy. I have worked with plenty of moms who are like, I'm not excited about this pregnancy. I'm not liking it. I'm not enjoying it. There's so much shame that we put on these things. Like any other big marker in life, you have to be excited. You have to like this. You don't. You might I didn't like the newborn phase. I will tell any mom that comes in that's like, I feel so guilty. I'm like, hated it, didn't like it. I like to be on the move. Sitting in a rocking chair for hours, especially choosing to breastfeed, was really, I remember being like this. I was like, I need stimulation. It was part of a bigger journey, and there are other parts of that journey that I've really loved. We don't have to find ourselves perfectly in every single one of them. And same for the partner, being able to express that, maybe not to mom, because she's not in a place to hold space, but whether it be to a friend who's a partner to someone who's had a kid, whether that be your parents, therapy, always here for therapy.
Yeah.
Find a space, and please, no female therapists. I am a mom, I'm a therapist, I deal with postpartum. Thrilled to see a dad or supportive partner on my couch going, this has been really hard for me. The last thing I'm going to do is be like, imagine how it's been for her. This is your first time completely losing your sense of self and having these big transitions too, and that's completely valid.
Such an important reminder. Of, yeah, it's not just about the baby. It's not just about the baby. It's not just about the mom. And it's not just about the mom. But it's also about the partner as well. Or who else is close. Who else is close in that
Interconnected system, just like everything else. Everybody's going to do better if we're all looking out for each other and getting the support that we need.
Yes. And really validating that it's a change for everyone. Change is generally difficult. Or it's awkward, uncomfortable, there's newness. And when there's all these other factors of life bustling along, usually someone's still going to work, don't have great maternity leave always. Yeah, you gotta like pull it together sometimes, but there's a lot of other things, emotions.
Yeah, and just so many catchphrases, honestly, and like just phrases that people will say to you because that's what we do, right? Oh, you're pregnant, congratulations! It's going to be the most beautiful journey of your. My friends and I joke about being the mom in the grocery store and your baby's losing it, and you're like sweating and you're trying to get something done, and another lady will come by with a cart and she's like, honey, just enjoy these days. And I'm like, and it's not that those things aren't helpful. There are times where it lands, there's times where it very much so doesn't, but just being mindful of what you say to new parents, creating space where people feel like they can express whatever they're feeling about wherever they're at in their journey. Not just it's joy. I really feel like it's important to create a space where a mom can say, this isn't feeling how I thought it would, and going, that doesn't mean that you're not going to end up loving it, or that doesn't mean that you're not doing it right. It's just everybody experiences it differently, and it changes so many times because you just brought a life into the world that's changing every single month to a completely different human being, and you're going to change it.
Yeah. Wow. Seems like the ability to kind of be okay with change and tolerate change is kind of like the biggest way that someone could prepare for this journey.
Yeah, preemptive therapy to how to disconnect from the need to control would be really, really helpful. And like we said, so much of that dialectal behavior therapy work and grounding and just noting psychosomatic symptoms of stress, responding differently, all of that can be really beneficial before you're either dealing with postpartum or just the reality of long-term motherhood of overstimulation, constant overstimulation.
Constant stimulation. Well, there's lots more that, someday we can dive back into these topics. And for our listeners, if you have any more questions for Erin, love for you guys to email us. But anything that's still lingering as a thought, a feeling that you would want to say to any families or partners or moms out there as we end?
I said a lot. I can go on this topic for sure. I would just say, I always say this as a disclaimer, and I am a therapist. I love therapy. There are moments and times where maybe either it's inaccessible or someone's just not in a place. Mom might be like, right now it's just not, I'm not ready for that quite yet. Because it can be hard just to get out the door in postpartum, which, as Lizzie and I were discussing, I would love to one day offer in-home postpartum mental health care. But this can look like, the partner reaching out to a friend and the friend just popping up with coffee. It's showing up, no expectations. Doesn't mean that mom's going to want to divulge everything that's difficult about this for her, just being in that space with her and asking what she needs. Always asking, like, what is it that you need? Not assuming, because this journey is so different for every person. What I would have wanted might not be what my friend wanted.
Yeah. Amazing. Asking mom what she needs. And the partner too, sometimes.
Yeah. Doing something nice for the partner is always good too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It was a pleasure to chat with you and learn more for myself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If it spoke to you, it'll probably speak to someone you love too. Share it with a friend and leave us a 5-star review to help spread the message it's never too late to heal.